Wizards? Mooner is back today, and today I want to bring you another quick deck tech, hopefully to help you guys get ready for skirmish season this year, which is coming up real fast, next week I believe. I'm recording this the last day of March, so March 30th. Tomorrow's April Fool's Day. Everybody excited for that or whatever. Anyways, I wanted to bring you guys a deck tech on my Emperor, Durkai of Aesir Blitz deck. Obviously, he's a Blitz only hero. And just to get into him, if you're not unfamiliar with Emperor, he is a Royal Draconic Wizard Warrior hero, young. He starts with 15 health, so he has that wizard health deficit, and he has 4 intellect, which is pretty standard. And he has this really awesome text that says his hero ability is you may only have red cards in your deck. So this is a completely redline aggro deck, and he has action, pay 3 resources, search your deck for Command and Conquer, attack with it, and then shuffle. I will note that this is not considered playing Command and Conquer, so that might matter, it might not, but this is actually, you know, you are searching your deck for CNC, and then you are attacking with it. It is not, you are not playing Command and Conquer, you are just attacking with it. But, so let's get into the deck. So first thing first about Emperor is, like I said, he is a completely red line deck. He can only have red cards in his deck. And he is a wizard and a warrior. But this deck is mostly themed around the wizard class, obviously. I am a wizard fanatic. Not to say that the warrior aspect of his hero ability is bad. It's just not that strong right now. It's not as strong as the wizards being able to play spells and things like that. But I think Emperor is a really, really great choice this skirmish season. He is insanely strong. He's a lot stronger than a lot of people give him credit for. In fact, I wrote an article about Emperor for the Wrath Times a little while back, a few months back. I'll link that at the bottom in the description of this video if you guys want to check that out. Also stay tuned to the end of this video. I've got some news and some updates and things like that. I'll try to go over this pretty quickly so I'm not wasting everybody's time. But let's get into it. So let's start with the equipment. The first thing about Emperor is this Blitz season, I think he's a really, really great choice. He's my dark horse pick of all the wizards. I think the wizards this skirmish season and in Blitz in general are stronger and the strongest decks out there. I don't think there's really any contesting that. Icelander is by far the best Blitz deck, and she's matched by Kano. And I have a Kano deck tech coming up very, very soon. I'm recording it today. I'll be posting it right after this one. But I wanted to give you this Emperor deck tech first. I think he's my favorite dark horse pick. If you're going into a meta that is kind of wizard lacking, Emperor is a really, really great pick. The only matchups he really struggles in are other wizard matchups, and that is mostly because of his, his tagline of only being able to play red cards. That's a really big inconvenience for him to be able to pay for Arcane Barrier. So when you're going up against an all aggro Arcane Icelander list like mine, it's pretty much an auto loss. There's really no way to win that matchup unless you go second, block out everything first, and then get really, really lucky and draw a couple of your power cards and are able to just, keep tempo the entire time. Blitz is an insanely fast format, and it's pretty dice rolly as far as I'm concerned. A lot of the matchups depend on who goes first or second. That being said, as Emperor, you generally always want to go second. You always want to block out everything and then be able to start the game at full health and being able to attack and go on the offense first. Like I said, he's my dark horse pick. He's got some really, really great matchups. He's really fast and he's really strong, and he presents damage on 2 different fronts, both on physical and with Arcane, and he presents your opponent with really difficult decisions on how to block, being able to present physical damage, and then follow it up with arcane every single turn. And then kind of end the chain with a CNC or something like that. It's really, really effective and efficient. And even though he is a completely redline deck, he is super hyper efficient and able to just push lots and lots of damage every single turn on both axes, arcane and physical, and it makes blocking decisions from your opponent really difficult. It makes equipment choices from your opponent very, very difficult as well. And you can catch a lot of people off guard with Emperor. I've won quite a few armories, even against opponents who know what I'm doing. He's just so strong, so fast, and so efficient. As long as you're not presented with arcane damage from your opponent that you have to block out, which is insanely difficult. There aren't very many bad matchups that he has. I mean, he completely slaps aggro. He's a really, really great, really flavorful hero. He's one of my favorite heroes in the game, and I'm only excited to see what other sets bring as far as generic and wizard and warrior cards that can kind of help progress his game plan in the future. He did get a couple really cool things, in my opinion, from outsiders that I have included in this deck. So I had to wait till I got these cards. That's why it's taken me a little while to actually make this deck tech. But let's get into it. First of all, we have our weapons, and obviously I only use Waning Moon. It's the only staff I use, but I also use Jubil. Now, I do kind of think Jubil is a slight bit of a trap. I do use it in the wizard matchups. Like I said, if you can get lucky, get that Spellbane Aegis token, be able to prevent some of that arcane damage that is being presented to you. You can win, but it's not easy. But otherwise, we use Waning Moon just for a little bit of chip damage. You're never really playing this on your opponent's turn, obviously. This isn't an Icelander deck. You don't get that kind of priority window where you're able to play Waning Moon on your opponent's turn, unless it is the kill turn in which you are presenting 3 arcane damage to them on the kill turn. And I'll get into all that as we get into the deck. But then we have our headpieces. The main one I run is Arcanite Skullcap, and one of the reasons I love Emperor so much is because he starts at such a low life that it's one of the very few decks in the game where Skullcap is still good. It is still my primary headpiece. Just being able to gain 3 life throughout the game is very, very important. So starting at a lower life, you're basically only using this for the block. The pay 3 for Arcane Barrier never comes up because obviously having 3 resources at your disposal to pay for Arcane Barrier is pretty much never going to happen. The other headpiece I use is Crown of Providence. I use this sometimes in the Guardian matchups, but generally I use Skullcap almost exclusively, but I do have Providence in there. Just in case. There are some people who prefer it over Skullcap. I understand why. Being able to filter your hand or change out your arsenal and everything, it is really powerful. But I think the extra life you get from Skullcap is more important. Next, we have Braveforge Bracers. And having access to the Warrior class gives us access to Braveforge Bracers. You can use its ability when you are running Jubil, but more often than not, and the primary reason this is in the deck is just to gain 3 life. Having 2 block and then an additional 1 block, it's just really important. And the other arm piece I run is Metacarpus Node. Any matchup that I feel I can run Metacarpus Node in, I do, just for its ability. Not for its arcane barrier, but for its ability. So any matchup I feel like I'm not so super worried about my life and that I can erase the opponent, Metacarpus Node is going to take your kill range up 1 extra damage. It's going to take it up from 9 to 10, which is a big, big difference in Blitz. That 1 extra damage is massive in Blitz. So taking your kill shot range from 9 to 10 is hugely important. So if you were in a matchup where you feel like you don't have to block all that much or you're not super worried about your life total, Metacarpus Node comes in. Being able to pump that last spell, which I'll get into, is massive. And then the two chess pieces I run are Alluvian Constellas. This is a sideboard option. This only comes in for the wizard matchup, just for some extra arcane barrier if you need it. And the primary chess piece we are running is Flamescale Furnace. Flamescale Furnace helps facilitate this deck to its fullest. Without Flamescale Furnace, being a Draconic Wizard Warrior, he does have access to the Draconic class. And without Flamescale Furnace, this deck would not work nearly as efficiently or as explosively as it is able to with Flamescale Furnace. Just being able to get that once per turn instant of pitching resources into your already red pitch to get extra resources is massive. You can pitch into Arcane Barrier if you have to. Let's say you're pitching 2 or 3 into Arcane Barrier, and then you can activate Furnace, pitch another red, and then get 3 or 4 more additional resources for Arcane Barrier. That's not the primary reason why we use it. We use it to just generate massive amounts of resources through the red cards we are pitching. But it can come up to where, you get extra resources for Arcane Barrier. But it's a little tricky. I would run Alluvian over Flamescale Furnace in the Wizard matchup, but that's your choice. And the only boots we run is Stormstriders. We are a Wizard. There's no reason you should be ever running anything other than Stormstriders. And just being able to take that extra turn on your opponent's turn, break your Striders, and then hit them with a big spell is how we win the game, generally. So that's all the equipment. Let's get into the deck. So I've broken this deck down into two different types, or two sides of the deck. We have our physical damage, and then we have our arcane damage, and then we have a little bit of prevention at the end. So let's get into the physical first. We are mostly taking advantage of all the amazing generic and draconic cards that we can play. All the red cards, they are really they're super efficient. They're very strong, and this deck wouldn't be this deck without Command and Conquer. Actually, it would. There's a lot of Emperor decks I've seen out there that don't even run Command and Conquer. But what is the fun in that? The whole reason you are playing Emperor is because you have access to Command and Conquer. So why wouldn't you take advantage of his hero ability? So I have 2 CNCs in the deck for a couple reasons. One, they do help as poppers in the Dromai or Prism matchups, just having access to a popper. But being able to tutor up a CNC on demand and throw it at your opponent is massive. Anybody who argues otherwise isn't playing Emperor correctly, in my opinion. So I would never not run Command and Conquer, and I would never not run 2 of them. So they're in the deck. Next we have E-Strike. Just being E-Strike is what it is. 2 copies of Enlightened Strike. It's one of the most efficient attacks in the game. Every mode on this card is always good. Either drawing a card for Arsenal, giving the +2, or giving it go again. There's never a time where you're unhappy to see an E-Strike in your hand, and every single mode in this deck every single mode on the card is good in this deck, so I would never not run it. One of the cool cards that we got from Outsiders is, in my opinion, Give and Take. Now, this card has been a massive overperformer in the deck. Just being a 1-cost go again, it definitely helps in the fatigue matchups. There are a lot of decks out there that will try to fatigue you, and Give and Take helps in that a lot, but it is a 1-cost go again. It blocks 3, which is absolutely massive, and it attacks for 3. So you can always, play a Give and Take and then, activate your Flamescale Furnace to get additional resources. It's a really great play line to just Give and Take for 1, go again, pitch the Flamescale Furnace, tutor up a CNC, 9 damage. It's really nice. And if they want to block this, you can put any of your power cards back on top of your deck. It's really great. I love Give and Take. It's one of the sleeper hits of the set. I think once a lot more people start playing with this card, they will realize how absolutely bonkers strong it is. And it's really, really great in Emperor. Just 3 go again for 1 cost. A lot of people were running Belittle in their decks just for the 1-cost 3 go again. But Give and Take blocks 3. Obviously, it's better in that sense. and that it has really relevant text to where if they do want to block it, you're getting something back on top of your deck. You can pump this card, and if it goes up to 6 and they block it with 2 cards, then you get to put 2 different cards on top of your deck. That can be massive. That is definitely been confirmed in the rules that the more cards they block with this card with, the more cards you get to put back on top of your deck. So if they block it with 3 cards, then you get to put 3 cards back on top of your deck. But just pumping this up a little bit and throwing a give and take at them, it's either free damage. They're gonna take the damage, or you're gonna put something like an E-Striker, a Command and Conquer, or something like that right back on top of your deck, and you're just gonna keep rolling. And it's just one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situations. But generally speaking, your opponent's just going to take that damage. So it's just 3 free damage with Go Again, and it's just massive. I really, really love give and take in this deck. Next we have Flamecall Awakening, 2 copies of Flamecall Awakening. Now Flamecall Awakening is another 1 for 3 Go Again. But the reason I love Flamecall Awakening so much is because I run 1 Phoenix Flame in the deck. And what you can do is you can play a red card, play Flamecall Awakening, tutor up that Phoenix Flame, and then go ahead and pitch that Phoenix Flame for resources, or even attack with it. So this is just a 1 for 4 with Go Again. Attack with it for 1 damage if you want to, if you need to just squeak in a little bit of extra damage. Or you can just pitch this to Flamescale Furnace and just gain a massive amount of resources and just keep going with your turn. It's really, really efficient and really effective. Flamecall Awakening is awesome in this deck. I wouldn't run any more than 1 Phoenix Flame. It can be really bad to draw this card. So generally, if you're drawing this card, you're just pitching it away and hoping to tutor it back up with Flamecall Awakening in the future. And then we have one of my favorite cards in the deck. My second favorite card other than Give and Take is Life for a Life. This card is absolutely goated in this deck. It is a 1 for 4, and if you have lower life than your opponent, which generally you always do, it has Go Again, and if it hits, it gains you a life. So this is pretty much a 1 for 5 value with Go Again. It does only block for 2. That's a little bit sad, but still, this card is absolutely awesome, and your opponent has to respect it. Just being able to get Go Again and gain an extra life can be massive. And then we have some good old faithfuls here. We have Scar for a Scar, which is almost always online. It's almost always ready to go because you start at such a low life. And then we have Ravenous Rabble, which is always coming in for 4. Imagine that. It's never going to come in for 3 or 2. You are never going to hit a blue or a yellow. This is always coming in for 4 Go Again for 0 cost. Ravenous Rabble is one of the best cards in the deck. Then we have 2 copies of Blaze Headlong. Being Draconic, we have access to Blaze Headlong, and as any Phi player or opponent of Phi knows how strong this card is, it's absolutely busted. Just 0 for 4 Go Again, with the condition that you have played an additional red card before it, which is not hard considering every card in the deck is fucking red. And then we have 2 copies of Snatch. This is just a really great chain ender. Just being able to just 0 for 4, 0 for 4, Life for a Life, Scar for a Scar, and then end with a Snatch. I mean, Snatch is what it is for it is. And then my last chain ender is Coax a Commotion. I have 2 copies of this. I know a couple people who aren't so high on this card, but I really, really am. All these modes, if your opponent lets it hit, can be beneficial. You can definitely always use that extra life. You can always use that card to throw in the arsenal. Almost every single card in this deck is fine to go into arsenal. There's not a single card in this deck that you are unhappy with going into arsenal. So drawing that extra card, throwing it in arsenal, or creating a Quicken token. Quicken token into Coax a Commotion or Snatch is just, or even Blaze Headlong. You can start your chain with the Blaze Headlong. Any of these cards, most of these cards already have Go Again, but I mean, E-Strike for 7 with a Quicken token is just absolutely busted. And then we have a couple pumps here. We just have 2 copies of Nimbleism. Every single card here, except for Command and Conquer, can get buffed by Nimbleism. And like I was saying with Give and Take, just buffing that up to 6 damage. Either they're going to take that 6 damage, or you're going to put 2 cards right back on top of your deck, like 2 more Blaze Headlongs or something like that. You can play Nimbleism into Blaze Headlong, giving it Go Again. Nimbleism into any of these cards. If you draw Phoenix Flame in hand and you have a Nimbleism that's still Nimbleism into Phoenix Flame 3 go again. So Nimbleism is choice in this deck. And then, so this is all the attacks and the buffs I have for the attacks. And then we have our spells. So our spells in this deck are your, I don't know how to put this, but these are your chain enders as well. What you want to basically do, your basic play patterns of this deck are play a couple go again attacks and then end the chain with a spell. Some of these spells cost 1, some of them cost 2. You can always get those resources from Flamescale Furnace. I'm sorry. Once with a little bit of Flamescale Furnace manipulation, Voltic Bolts for 2 actually become 0. So I'll let you guys figure that out with some practice of this deck. But we have 2 Saps. I really like Sap. It is just a 0 for 3. So just, Blaze Headlong into Scar for a Scar into Sap. It just presents damage on 2 different axes. Your opponent is blocking cards from hand, and then you're throwing arcane damage at the end of the chain, and they're just like, well, what am I supposed to block, and how am I supposed to block this? So just being able to end the chain with a Sap is really nice. Then we have 2 copies of Aether Quickening Red, just 4 arcane damage. The Surge on this is irrelevant. It's just a 1 for 4. But like I said, Flamescale Furnace can make this cost 0. I have 1 copy of Reverberate in here. I go back and forth between 1 and 2. This is just a 1 copy to offset the Phoenix Flame in the deck, but I really, really love Reverberate. If you're going into a matchup with a lot of low AB, this can just let you chain together a couple different spells. But it is the weakest of the spells if your opponent decides to block it out. So that's why I only have 1 copy in here. But Reverberate is one of my favorite spells. Just being able to reverberate into a Sap or into an Aether Quickening if they only have AB2 or something like that. It's just really, really strong. So that's your choice. You might want to put another Reverberate in there. I honestly really love Reverberate. I might put a 2nd copy back in. But if your opponent is blocking out all your arcane damage, it can just be the most inefficient spell you have. And then we have our big boys, our big red spells. We have 2 copies of Voltic Bolt, we have 2 copies of Swell Tidings, and we have 2 copies of Emeritus Scalding. Now these are what you are going to try to fish for and get into Arsenal to actually get that kill shot. Emeritus Scalding is going to offer your most damage with 6 on your opponent's turn. But Swell Tidings and Voltic Bolt both offer 5, either on your turn or your opponent's, so they're very flexible there. But Emeritus Scalding is generally never played on your turn. You are trying to get this into Arsenal as soon as possible and get your opponent down to 9 or 10 life and then strike. And your general play pattern is going to be attack with a bunch of physical, end your chain with some arcane damage, manipulate your Flamescale Furnace as much as possible, get some free Voltic Bolts and Aether Quickenings in, and then get that Emeritus Scalding into Arsenal as soon as possible. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to get them down to 10 life, and you're going to want to wait till they overextend. And what you're going to do is you're going to pop your Striders. You're going to need your Striders, your Waning Moon, your Metacarpus Node, your Furnace for this. So be careful. Don't break your Furnace. Do not break your Furnace. Do not block with it twice. Block with it once. Don't block with it again, because you need this Furnace to actually be able to facilitate a kill. So what we're going to do is, let's just pretend... Oh, I'm sorry. I have a couple more cards to go over. We have 2 copies of Sink Below in the deck. Sink Below is just goated, just the 0 for 4 block card. I wouldn't go any higher than 2 copies of a defense reaction in the deck, just because it can kind of clog your hand up a little bit if you draw more than 1 at the same time. And this deck is meant to be hyper aggressive. You're only trying to block out those snatches and things like that with Sink. But you have a super high fridge of armor that you can throw into just about anything else. So having 2 copies of Sink is pretty necessary. And then we have 2 copies of Sigil of Solace and 2 copies of Brush Off. Brush Off is another addition that I came about from Outsiders. Consider it 2 more copies of Sigil of Solace. It just pretty much says gain 3 life. Just being able to block something that costs 3 or less damage as an instant is really important. It can cover up a Waning Moon perfectly. You know, the same way you would use Sigil of Solace, just consider using Brush Off. If you're being dealt damage, and even if you're being dealt 5 damage and you throw a piece of armor at it and you take it down to 3, you can play Brush Off as an instant. It can help you with some dominated attacks. It can help you with a lot of things, but mostly it's just to cover up Moon and act as gaining 3 more life. Brush Off has been a really big overperformer. It's not as good as Sigil because, you know, obviously you can just Sigil and gain 3 life. You can't just Brush Off and gain 3 life, but you can prevent 3 damage, and it can be really important. So that's the defense of the deck. Let's get into how you want to facilitate this end combo. It's really, really simple, and it's actually incredibly consistent. So what you want to do is you want to get an Emeritus or another big spell into hand. Now take into mind that a Voltic Bolt will take your kill range from 8 to 9, and an Emeritus will take your kill range from 9 to 10. And I say 9 to 10 or 8 to 9 because that depends on if you're running Metacarpus node. So you've got an Emeritus in Arsenal, and you've got 4 cards in hand. It doesn't matter what they are. These could be any 4 cards. It does not matter. And what you're going to do is you are going to pay 1 resource to break your Storm Striders. You're left with 3 cards in hand, and you still have your Emeritus in Arsenal. And then you are going to pay 2 resources to play Emeritus. Alright? And then what you're going to do is you are going to activate Flamescale Furnace by pitching another resource. And this is going to give you 4 resources. You are going to use one of those resources to pump Metacarpus node into Emeritus Scalding, and you're going to use 2 more of those resources to finish them off with Waning Moon. So that's going to take your Emeritus up to 7, and then you're going to Waning Moon for 3 more arcane damage up to 10. Now, if this is one of those matchups where you cannot run Metacarpus, you have to run your block, you have to run your gauntlets. Just subtract 1 damage. It's still the same play line. You're going to Storm Striders for 1. You're going to Emeritus for 2. You're going to Flamescale Furnace. It's going to give you 4 resources. You're going to Waning Moon, taking 2. You'll have 2 resources left over. If you have to, you know, Arcane Barrier to stay alive or something like that, that can come into play. But yeah, that's the basic play line for this. What you want to do is just be as aggro as possible. Just throw out as many attacks and your chains with some arcane damage. And then finish them off with a red spell from Arsenal. I will go over one more cheeky little play that you can do here. And that is tutoring up a CNC. So that's going to come into play with something like Flame Call Awakening. This is a pretty cheeky little combo here where you can play something like a Ravenous Rabble. It's going to come in for 4. And then you can pitch a resource there to Flame Call Awakening. That's going to come in for 3. It's going to let you tutor up a Phoenix Flame. You can pitch that Phoenix Flame into your Flamescale Furnace and go tutor up a CNC and attack with it that way. That's a really nice cheeky way to get some extra resources. You'll still be left with actually a card in hand, so let's say that's another Blaze Headlong. So you can Ravenous Rabble, Flame Call Awakening, Blaze Headlong, pitch that Phoenix Flame into Flamescale Furnace, and then finish it off with a Command and Conquer. And if you have something in Arsenal, like let's just say you have a Scar for a Scar in Arsenal there, and you're attacking with that. So you Scar for a Scar from Arsenal, 4 go again. And then you Ravenous Rabble from hand, 4 go again. And then you pitch a resource to Flame Call Awakening. You tutor up a Phoenix Flame. You attack with a Blaze Headlong, 4 go again. You pitch your Oh no, you can't do that. You need an extra resource to pitch 2. I'm sorry, it costs 3 to 2-drop a Command and Conquer. But yeah, you can throw a Command and Conquer out there for 6. It's pretty cheeky. There's a lot of cheeky things you can do with this deck. Just manipulating Flamescale Furnace, tutoring up Phoenix Flames, things like that. Getting Go Again. It's really fun. This deck is really strong. Like I said, it kind of suffers a little bit into the Arcane matchups. But other than that, it doesn't really have a lot of bad matchups. I suggest giving it a shot. It is a very expensive deck to play, granted. Emperor himself is a legendary, and then it takes 1, including Emperor, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 8 legendary cards in this deck, plus Command and Conquers and E-Strikes. It is not a cheap deck at all. I've completely foiled out mine because I'm a brat, but this deck is not for the faint-of-hearted, so it's more of a fun deck. If you want to be hyper-competitive at your skirmish season this year, I wouldn't suggest playing or investing into Emperor unless you have the cards already, just because he does kind of get stumped by Wizard just a little bit. But I will include a deck list link in the description of this video. Feel free to take this deck on Talshar and play around with it, have fun. Always go second, like I said. You want to just block out everything first, and then just onslaught of damage, physical and arcane. Tutor up some CNCs, have fun with that. And yeah, good luck. Give this deck a shot. Hope you guys enjoy it. And stay tuned for my Kano deck. It will be placed in my Blitz Kano deck will be I will be posting that in the next day or so. I will be recording that as well today. And thank you guys so much for all the support and everything. To the person that won the Waning Moon on my last giveaway, that was super awesome. You still haven't contacted me yet. I reached out to you on Twitter and here at YouTube. But as soon as I reach the 100 subscriber mark, I am giving away a Rainbow Foil Emperor and a Rainbow Foil Alluvian Constellus. So, to the same person, that will be given away to the same person. So, I don't have the Rainbow Foil Emperor in front of me right now, but I do have the Alluvian Constellus. So, make sure to subscribe and like this video if you are not subscribed to the channel already. Share, like, comment down below. I love interacting with everybody. If you guys have any ideas or anything like that you want to throw around, or any ideas for videos you'd like to see in the future, this is an All Wizard channel. I will be doing, like I said, a Kano deck tech today as well. It's a Blitz Kano deck, hopefully, so you guys have that in time for skirmish season as well. And I have another CC Icelander deck that I will be doing a deck tech on. It is a full aggro arcane Icelander deck. It's no secret that Icelander really struggles into the Rangers right now in the CC meta, but I've been working on something extra spicy to kind of help deal with that, and I've actually been having a lot of fun and success with it, so I'll try to get that out to you guys as soon as possible. But thank you guys. Keep slinging that arcane damage, Wizards, and have a good day. Everybody awesome. Later.